Okay, first order of business is the approval of the agenda. Can I get a motion? Katie, second Henry. Any questions?
No.
Okay to vote? All in favor? 6-0 approved. Next up is the superintendent's report. Mr. Poole.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good evening, everybody. I'd like to start off with a thank you to our community for supporting the budget and the two propositions. Certainly, we're all grateful, and our students and schools are fortunate to live in a community that continues to support our students' academic, athletic, mental health, artistic success every year. So thank you to the community. I'd like to welcome a few guests that are here this evening as well. Legislator Sarah Anker, who's here to recognize a group of our amazing students for their achievements this evening. All the teachers, administrators, and students are here to present and celebrate their accomplishments in science fairs, AP Capstone, Science Research, and Future Farmers of America Club. Our wonderful teachers that are on the agenda tonight for tenure, and a special recognition for Pat Rogers, who is an unsung hero in the school district, who many, if not all families, will know is an amazing help for any and all transportation matters. Pat is on the agenda this evening for a well-deserved new title of Transportation Coordinator. So welcome to everyone this evening. Let's share a few congratulations. I had the pleasure of seeing the high school play this weekend, an evening with Shakespeare. Congratulations to our students, especially our senior performers, who we will miss on stage, but look to see them in the future on other bigger stages. I just have to give a shout out to Peter, who played King Lear. I really feel like Peter's ready for a Broadway role as King Lear. What an amazing job by him. Show was well conceived, produced. Thank you to Ms. Heigem and Ms. Aegis. And one more special recognition to the group that put the show on would be the students that ran the digital production booth in the back. Very complicated, really in-depth to do it. So talented for them to be able to understand and operate that system for a live show. So congratulations to all the students and faculty involved in that high school production. Congratulations to Mr. John Samante, our middle school choral teacher. He conducted a choral reading workshop for the Suffolk County Music Educating Association. The feedback from that organization was overwhelmingly positive, and Mr. Samante as well for being named as an award recipient that celebrates Long Island's young professionals, up-and-coming stars on the island. So congratulations to Mr. Samante. Couple of happenings in the school district. Really glad we were able to run field days this year. That they've been a great success. A full day of events was planned for each grade. Briarcliff students were able to come over to Miller Avenue. And the kindergarten students, when they came, were able to walk through the Miller Avenue building. Lots of excitement, great activities. I don't know how Mr. Paranello did it, but he was able to pull off an SRO this year. The play Super Happy News, they had a live release of the showing just last week. Great performance. Thank you to the Wading River students and the faculty, Mr. Paranello. I was glad to hear they were able to have a cast party with some homemade ice cream from McNulty's. Thank you to McNulty's. Outside education field trips have been continuing K through 8. I know that just recently our 4th grade classes have visited the Benner's Farm, students immersing themselves in colonial life for a real hands-on experience, and those have been great. And one last note for Wading River. Wading River's 5th grade classes outside this week had an entrepreneur showcase, kind of like a Shark Tank over there. I had a chance. I know Mr. Meinster and myself were over there today, listening to students' presentations. If I had a little more money, I would have invested in some of their products. But really, what a great job by the students and their teachers, creating a dynamic learning opportunity for students. Really, an entrepreneur business expo. I know some local businesses came to talk to students about entrepreneurship. I know Marty from Brecky's came to visit a couple of classrooms. So great job by all. Lots of ingenuity, public speaking, and creativity involved for that as well. And finally, congratulations to our varsity baseball coach. Congratulations for Coach Willie on his 100th win last week. So congratulations to him for that accomplishment. I have a couple of updates. One is on high school graduation. We are planning on a traditional ceremony. Did confirm with the Department of Health that we are able to have one ceremony with 2 guests allowed per students. So the traditional setup on high school grounds. We will not need to ask for proof of a negative test or vaccine with the numbers that we have or that setup. There are some other parameters that we'll be required to follow, such as separating groups by 6 feet. Of course, if guidance changes, which it does frequently, we will of course adjust and update our plans. Just a brief update on the universal pre-K funding that we received, the $172,000. We developed a request for a proposal over the last few weeks. That is out and advertised, has been mailed to several local UPK providers, and assuming we get satisfactory responses, the UPK funding for next year will provide a minimum 5-hour program for a maximum of 32 students as determined by the state. All pre-K age students would be eligible to apply for that program, and in the eventuality we had more than 32 applications, we would be required by New York State to have a lottery to identify the successful students that would enroll in that program. So more to come. I do expect, I think the RFP is due the end of June. Expect by early July to be able to start to get information out to families about that New York State grant-funded program. Speaking of reopening and school federal grant funding, you may recall that the district did receive several funding sources from the federal government through the state for a safe return to school and to address learning loss. Planning for that funding has been ongoing. Tomorrow afternoon, the reopening committee is going to review a draft of that district plan for the use of those federal grant funds for feedback, and with the goal of presenting a plan publicly for the Board of Education on June 8th. The deadline to submit an initial plan for those grant plans is June 15th, and that total funding from the two funding sources is about $2.5 million over a 3-year period. So more to come on that. Just a little more on reopening plans for next year. As I mentioned, the reopening committee will meet tomorrow to finalize some recommendations for next year. As we discussed and shared throughout the budget development process, the elementary, based on the April 9th guidance from New York State, will be at 3 feet. That's going to require a lot of coordination and moving of rooms and furniture over the summer months. I have some good news to share. Currently, the county cases per the CDC for Suffolk County is at a moderate risk level for transmission. That's based on, as we discussed a few weeks ago, total cases and positivity rates. And that does allow us to plan for the safe return to students to 3 feet at our secondary schools. That does mean reinstalling some of the walls we took down last year, getting students out of the gyms, out of the library, out of the odd instructional spaces that we had to utilize this year to have all of our students come back every day for in-person learning. So we do plan on reviewing that tomorrow with the goal of finalizing that over the next month and revising our reopening plan so it reflects those changes as well. I do want to take a minute just to talk about masks and mask use and give everybody a little bit more information on that. I know that has certainly been a topic of conversations. I certainly have received a number of phone calls and emails on the use of masks by students from concerned parents over the last 2 weeks, but really over the course of the school year. Many parents hoping that a change can be made by the district, and some requesting that no changes be made, at least not for this year. I know I certainly understand, as all of us do, the concerns of parents on the prolonged use of masks by students, and especially for their use outside when temperatures are rising. I want to note that the protocols for the use of masks for in-person learning is not a local district decision. We have from the start followed New York State and Suffolk County health mandates and in regards to COVID-19 protocols and in-person learning. Mask mandates are laws established by New York State. We are required to follow those regulations. We have kept our schools open following those and have not had a school outbreak. In fact, just today, the Suffolk County Department of Health, Commissioner of Health, Dr. Piggott, released a letter to all superintendents advising them that there has been no change in mask protocols, and I'll just read an excerpt from that letter. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and New York State Department of Health have both been clear that existing school guidance should be followed through the end of the school year. This includes universal mask wearing, even if students are spaced 6 feet apart. In fact, pre-K to 12 schools are exempt from New York State guidance for fully vaccinated people and must continue to follow the state's existing COVID-19 health guidelines in schools. Mask protocols and any changes for schools, this is not out of the letter anymore, are really established in Albany, where the power to change mask mandates resides. I know the Board of Education and myself sent a letter this week to elected officials requesting relief of mask use for when students are outside. I know we've had some 80-degree days, and it's tough running around with the hot sun. But I would like to take a moment to share the letter. It is posted on our webpage. So, letter to elected officials. As you know, this year has been truly unprecedented for all and has caused many to embrace new changes, adopt new protocols, and reinvent educational practices. Our community was fortunate to have developed a plan that provided our students, K through 12, with a full-day in-person instructional program since the first day of school in September. It has been wonderful to see our students thriving and learning besides their peers in our buildings. As has been the case for all students in New York State, we have followed proper mask-wearing protocols and the COVID-19 safety guidelines established to continue our in-person program. However, we are writing you today to consider an amendment to one aspect of these prescribed directives. Given the low rate of outdoor transmission and steady declines in infections, we are looking to provide our students with a mask break when learning and playing outdoors during the school day, independent of social distancing. As outdoor temperatures rise over the spring and summer, requiring a mask for children for outdoor physical education and recess activities should only be required when the danger of transmission is substantial or high. This change will support students being more active outdoors and provide them with a healthy boost of optimism for the future. Neighboring states, such as Massachusetts, have already made this change for children for recess and physical education. It is time for New York to do the same. The sun is shining and children want to run at recess. Let's let the sun shine on their faces and see their smiles as they safely take a step back to a more traditional school experience. We thank you in advance for your consideration. Massachusetts and now Connecticut have both rolled back the outdoor requirement for masks when students are outside learning. Let's hope New York State will do the same. So just finally, it has been a great year, so rewarding for all of us here, for our students. Wonderful to see the level of collaboration between our homes and schools. I am incredibly optimistic about the start of the new school year with all of our regular programming in place, the impact of the federal grant dollars, our buildings back to regular use, and hopefully with most or all of the COVID-19 restrictions safely removed for all of our students and faculty. So thank you, and that concludes my report.
Great, thank you. Thank you for taking the initiative and drafting that letter to our elected officials. Hopefully we see some movement with that. Next up is opportunity for board members. I would like to first say thank you to Matthew Sperling, our ex officio student board member. Today is your last meeting, so thank you for attending. Anyone else have any? You guys are good? Okay. All right, next up, statements from residents. Agenda items only?
No.
No? Okay, great. Next up, student and staff recognition. First up is Briarcliff and Miller Avenue Virtual Science Fair winners. Honorable mentions, Mr. Jerry Poole.
Can I invite up Ms. Claudia Smith, principal of the Miller Avenue School?
Good evening to the Board of Education, district office members, and to our community. I am honored to be here tonight to present some of our honorable mention and our winners of our virtual science show. Unfortunately, this year, due to the pandemic, we couldn't have our typical show at both Briarcliff and Miller Avenue. We had some very dedicated young scientists that worked on their projects at home and then submitted them virtually. All of the projects were judged with the help of Mr. Nohill at the high school and his students. And tonight I have a presentation with some of our winners. You can view some of the projects outside in the foyer, by the way. So we have 4 students that were recognized at Miller Avenue and Briarcliff for honorable mention. When I call your name, you can come on up. We have Lily Yeager, come on up. She's ready to get up there and describe it. So Lily's project was called,
Go fly a kite.
and her question was, does the length of a kite's tail affect how long a kite can fly in the air? Do you want to answer it?
It affects how long the time is. The longest one stayed up for the longest because it catched more air.
Very good. Thank you so much, and congratulations to you. Cameron Regini was unable to be here tonight, so as you can see, it was the effect of color on basil. There's a picture of Lily's project. We have Roosevelt Berenson. Come on up. Roosevelt had a question that I have been wondering my entire life. Will sugar snap peas turn to the light? Roosevelt, do you want to tell the audience what you learned?
I learned that sugar snap peas will turn to the light because light are plants' food.
Excellent job, Roosevelt. Fantastic. Roosevelt, come on back. We have Madison Tees, who also had honorable mention. Madison's title was Far Flight. You can see her wonderful project up there. Her question was, she wanted to find out which type of paper airplane travels the furthest in the air. Are you ready to reveal your answer?
Basic dart caught the air the best and went in the farthest because it was pointy at the front and so the air went under the wings faster and there was less air resistance.
Makes perfect sense when she explains it. Thank you. So we have 3 winners of our science fair, 1 per grade, and our winners were submitted to the Brookhaven National Lab. They have their science fair each year, and winners will be announced on June 4th. Our first is our wonderful kindergarten scientist, Claire Teppenhart. Come on down. So Claire's project was to find out if her dog would sit more by giving it bones. Now, I was a little confused why Norm did not join us tonight, but they decided to leave him home. Claire, do you want to tell the audience the results of your project? All right, I have the project here. It says that he sits down when given bones. Fantastic job. Congratulations. Our first grade winner is John Lister. Come on down, John. John's sneaking up over here. As you can see, John's project is Matchbox Masters. And John wanted to find out, he wanted to see what things he could add to his Matchbox car to make it go furthest down a ramp. Are we ready for the results?
It was a draw. If you put coins on, it goes the farthest.
Why do you think that?
It's heavier, and if it goes down, it goes down a hill. If it's heavier, it just goes fastest for a reason.
This is,
and if it's faster, it has more energy, and so if it has more energy, the farther it can go.
fantastic job. Here you go. Good luck at Brookhaven. And our last winner is our second grade winner who will be going to Brookhaven National Lab, and that's Celia Gaeta. Come on up. So Celia wanted to know how the moon affects our feelings. Does the moon affect feelings? And her prediction was she thinks that people feel more tired and grumpy during a full moon because the moon is so bright. I am very anxious to hear these results.
Well, that is kind of true because it can shine into their windows, go into their eyes, and maybe it would make them harder to sleep because if you had the lights on while you were sleeping, it probably would be kind of hard.
Celia, did you do this test on your family members?
No, I had volunteers.
Okay, volunteers. Well, I wish you luck at Brookhaven National Lab. Thank you so much. Once again, thank you for allowing us to come tonight, and thank you to all of our science fair participants.
Thank you, Ms. Smith. Those were amazing. Wish we could spend the whole time going through all of them. Okay, next up is the recognition of middle school and high school students by County Legislator Sarah Anker. Mr. Poole.
Welcome, Senator.
Hello, can you hear me now? I want to thank everybody for inviting me here today. Can you hear me okay? You know, I hate turning my back to anybody, so please forgive me. You know, I'm wearing linen. It's very wrinkly today, but and I got here and the pollen is just everywhere. So if anyone sneezes or coughs, I'm with you. And I don't have COVID. I've had the 2 vaccines. But you know, I'm standing next to the kids, the science kids, and it's like this is going to be the future Albert Einstein or Nikola Tesla, Marie Curie. You know, it's just amazing. I get chills just thinking about the future potential of our children. So I just wanted to recognize some of our kids here. I actually have high school, I've got middle school, but I wanted to also thank, of course, our school, the parents who support our children, and the community. I don't know if you guys watched Drew Barrymore, but my son was on the Drew Barrymore show this past Wednesday. And, you know, like, why? And I said that to myself. I was a little nervous. But what happened, he graduated from Drexel University in Philly 2 years ago. And he said, Mom, I want to deliver bagels and not go to law school. And I said to myself, you know, law school, there's a lot of great things, you know, available, a lot of opportunity. He says, Mom, I love bagels. I want to deliver bagels. And I'm like, okay. And he's a smart guy. He knows what he's doing, evidently, because he was recognized on the Drew Barrymore show as a Drew Gooder. Are you guys familiar with that? Honestly, I have to say I don't always watch Drew Barrymore. But what he does, and he's doing quite well, he picks the bagels up in New York, and he brings them down to Philadelphia, and he does very well. Just so you know, they charge a lot more for bagels in Philadelphia. Rightfully so, because New York bagels are the best, I will say. But, you know, he was recognized for donating 5,000 bagels in the past year. And again, I'm like, Josh, I'm so proud of you, and you know, if you guys get to see it, it's amazing. He had previously been recognized for a Philly Proud, so I guess one thing led to another. But who would have thought, you know, bagels? So with that in mind, and I see, you know, with the high school and the high school graduates, follow your passion. I know it's hard. Show respect, of course, to your parents and your mentors and your teacher, but do what you love to do, because the doors will open up for you. Who would have thought my son at 24 would be on a national television show because he delivers bagels? Who would have thought? But God bless him. I'm here for him, and I'm here for you too. So let me go ahead and bring some of the kids up here that I have some certificates for. Will Mika Misawa, Owen Burham, and Daniel Julian please come forward if you guys are all here? Let's give them a round of applause. They are valedictorian and salutatorian. Do we have them in the house? Okay. Not tonight. Okay, well, they're home studying. Well, God bless them. We'll save their certificates. Now, this is the following, and bear with me because, again, the pollen's getting to me. High school students that have been nominated by their guidance counselors. And I don't have my glasses here. Owen Burham, Aaron McClintock, Kelly Cassidy, Kaylin Thrash, Paul LaCaslio, probably missed on that one, Jake Wilson. Any of those folks here tonight? Those are our high schools. Now, let's give them a round of applause. Yeah, I got some. Come on down. All right, so what I'm going to do, you know what, guys? Stay over there on the side. We'll do pictures after. Why don't I just read everyone's names first, and then we'll do our pictures, and I'll do the presentations. So stay, huddled together in a group. Okay, then we have the following high school students who have excelled in athletics. Alec Gregorek, Catherine Erb, Francisco Cortez, Jake Holarin, Jeffrey Latchemeyer, Johnny Schwartz, and Tyler Schwartz. Let's give them a round of applause. I think they're working out right now to help their athletic skills, so we're all good with that. High school student recognized in the paper for presenting his research at Brookhaven National Lab, and that's Jalal Sawas. Is Jalal here? We have the following middle school students who have excelled in academics: Benjamin Evans, Lauren DeRusso, Natalie Cortina, Michelle Nobre, Karen McGuire, Joylyn Nastasi. If you're in the house, come on up. Congratulations. You can head over here. I'll direct you over there. Again, I'm trying to expedite this. I know got a bunch of kids. Middle school student excelling through athletics. Emily Herr. Emily, congratulations. Let's give her a round of applause. Middle school students with outstanding musical achievement. Spencer Lee, Anthony Mango, Hannah Scotto, Liam McQuaid, and Yaha Hu. Congratulations. Congratulations, and again, as I said, follow your dreams, show folks respect, be persistent. You will persevere. I see it in your beautiful smiles that I'm imagining in my mind when we can take these masks off. I'm seeing it in your parents' eyes that basically, you guys raised your kids. We're here to help you. I can't wait to see what the future holds for all these young, beautiful people. Again, thank you so much. God bless you.
Can we have them up here for a photo?
Why don't you guys come up on the stage and take a photo?
Well, I think we could take it right over here because I have, right? Can we do groups here? But maybe the principal and the superintendent, or would you like to also join us for some photos?
Oh, okay.
Oh, you have a backdrop. Can I borrow your children for a few minutes?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'll babysit them, okay? No charge, no charge. Okay, so do you mind if we go out front? Is that what you're suggesting, Stephanie?
Sure.
Okay, and if the school board would like to join us, or superintendent, I'd be more than happy to include you. I don't know.
All right.
All right, thank you, everybody. I really
take a quick
appreciate your time.
Do some stand-up. You don't want to get that part.
Tom, work there.
There's like 3 seconds wait time. 3 seconds wait time. He's like, poor kid. He's actually perfect. Love him. I'll have to show it to you. It's interesting. Interesting for her. That's her dog. So. I don't know where it is.
Boy, that would have been fun, huh? Sorry about that. You went down Glen and.
All right. Ready? Good? All right. Okay, next up is the AP Capstone Seminar and Research Presentations. Mr. Poole?
I invite up Mr. Pugliese.
Thank you, Mr. Poole, Board of Education, District Office staff. Again, it is my pleasure to be here tonight to present two of our outstanding students, one in AP Capstone Seminar and one in AP Capstone Research. But before I do that, I want to bring up the two teachers who are directly responsible for those two classes, Mrs. Tren and Mr. Caskey.
For those who don't know, my name is Sarah Tren. I'm the AP Seminar teacher at the high school. This is my assistant for the evening, Liliana, aspiring AP Capstone student. She will be presenting her dissertation on Barbie dolls later in the evening. So AP Seminar student Kaylee Thompson is here today, this evening, to present her presentation, which was about maternity leave in the United States. And she explored that a little bit. And Mr. Caskey?
Hi everyone, how you doing? My name is Walter Caskey. I'm the AP Capstone research teacher at the high school here. And tonight we have Larissa Verde, who is going to present part of her research on the correlation between music and students and A-level classes. So, her presentation.
Evaluating the need for paid maternity leave legislation in the United States. Currently, the United States has no federal legislation in place that guarantees paid maternity leave. We are only one of 3 nations in the world with this title, even though we are the wealthiest nation in the world. Considering the fact that only 12% of American women are entitled to paid maternity leave, and 23% of American women return to work within only 10 days of giving birth due to the inability to afford living expenses, it's clear the United States has a problem with supporting mothers financially after they give birth. This set of circumstances has led me to the research question, should the United States adopt federal legislation that guarantees a paid maternity leave for all American women? The lenses through which I analyzed this issue were the social, political, and economic lenses. My research has led me to theorize that it is imperative that the United States adopt federal paid maternity leave legislation, as the benefits for maternal and infant health and the economy are substantial, and that it is plausible through bipartisan efforts. First, I will be discussing the social implications of federal paid maternity leave. According to an article published in the Harvard Review of Psychiatry, research has shown that maternity leave is beneficial to infant attachment, child development, and breastfeeding initiation and duration. Paid maternity leave can also be beneficial to the health of preterm infants, as the presence of their parents in and out of the NICU is critical to their overall health. Paid maternity leave is also correlated to a decrease in infant mortality rates and in mother and infant rehospitalizations up to 51%. And federal paid maternity leave could help reduce depressive symptoms and improve the mental health of mothers in the short and long run. In a country where thousands of women suffer from postpartum depression every year, this could be groundbreaking. Federal paid maternity leave also addresses issues of equity among marginalized groups of women. Higher percentages of non-Hispanic Black and Hispanic women take no maternity leave compared to non-Hispanic white women. Federal paid maternity leave brings us just one step closer to a more equitable United States. Next, I will be discussing the politics of federal paid maternity leave. Currently, the only federal legislation that addresses maternity leave is the Family and Medical Leave Act, or the FMLA. However, the FMLA requires only up to 12 weeks of unpaid leave, and it is not applicable to all employers, and only about 80% of people said that they were unable to use the FMLA. Given that 84% of registered voters agree to a comprehensive paid federal maternity leave act, one may ask themselves, what's the issue with implementing such an act? The issue is that United States lawmakers cannot come to an agreement on the best way to carry out and fund federal paid maternity leave, with the division being mostly along party lines. From the Democratic perspective, it is generally unfavorable to borrow against retirement funds. In 2013, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand of New York and Representative Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut introduced the Family Act. The Family Act would provide up to 12 weeks of partially paid leave that would be funded through employee and employer payroll taxes of up to about $2 a week for the average worker. However, this act has been introduced every year since 2013 and has failed. From the Republican perspective, it is generally unfavorable to increase taxes or put government mandates on employers. In 2015, Senator Marco Rubio proposed giving 25% tax break to those employers that were willing to offer up to 4 weeks of paid leave. However, just like the Family Act, this proposition has failed, leaving the political field for paid maternity leave stagnant. Lastly, I will be evaluating the economic implications of federal paid maternity leave, as it is important to look at the economics of any new federal legislation. Federal paid maternity leave could provide substantial economic support for families across the U.S., especially low-income families. A study published in the Journal for Social and Political Administration found that paid maternity leave can reduce the reliability of welfare for families that are low income, especially for the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or TANF. U.S. maternity leave policies may also generate healthcare cost savings due to reducing hospitalizations, as we know that paid maternity leave can actually decrease the amount of rehospitalizations for mothers and infants and reduce complications. The biggest counter-argument to federal paid maternity leave comes from business owners, as they are concerned that government intervention will cause them to lose profit. However, research from states that have implemented paid maternity leave has shown a significant enough increase in employee productivity, retention, and morale that supplements any loss and leads to financial gain. In California, one of the 5 states that has a paid maternity leave legislation in place, employers reported up to about 89 to 99% increase in employee productivity and morale, and an increase in the number of women that return back to work fully healthy. For the reasons previously stated, federal paid maternity leave legislation, if implemented, could lead to sustainable economic growth for the national economy of the United States. My proposal for the implementation of a federal paid maternity leave starts with gathering bipartisan support, as we've seen that the parties separately have failed to implement such legislation. Next, I would propose that they introduce a bipartisan bill that would include a minimum of 12 weeks of paid leave, as this is generally accepted by most medical professionals and is up to par with the international standards. And I think it would include a combination of employee payroll taxes and tax breaks to businesses. This would guarantee that all women in the United States have a paid-for maternity leave, and they have time to bond with their infants before prematurely returning to work due to finances. In conclusion, the benefits of paid maternity leave are unparalleled, including improvements in maternal and infant health, maternal mental health, social mobility for marginalized groups, financial support for families, economic stability for low-income families, improved employee productivity, and national economic growth. It is time to adopt federal paid maternity leave in the United States and support women and families once and for all. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kaylee. Larissa, please come on up.
Hi, I'm Larissa Verdi. I'm an AP research student, and for my project, I decided to study the correlation between AP students and music students for high school. So a little background on why I chose to do this topic is actually because of the Mozart effect. It's the idea that just by simply listening to Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, human intelligence can be raised. So before I performed my research, I evaluated roughly somewhere between 15 and 20 published sources that had something to do with music and intelligence. And the most important one was by Gordon Shaw, who's a UCI physics professor. And he obtained a group of second graders. He gave half of them piano lessons and the other half math tutoring games for 4 months. After this period, they took a math fractions test in which the math students had been studying for the 4 months. And results showed that those who received music training scored 30% higher than those who received the math training. So out of the 15 sources, the most important results were the 30% higher results on math tests, enhanced spatial temporal reasoning, which helps you with science and math analyzation, increased ability of memory recall and visual imagery, higher means of vocabulary, IQ, and SAT scores, higher cognitive brain function, and increased literacy, due to the parallel between musical and reading/writing literacy. So when I started to conduct my research, I was able to obtain 130 Shoreham-Wading River AP students that were willing to partake. They were all AP students, 90 of which were also music students, and 40 of which were only AP students. I asked them 8 questions in an anonymous survey, and from these questions, I was able to create this research chart, which showed that out of the 90 students who were AP students and music students, 66 of them averaged a grade quarter to quarter between 90 and 100 in their AP classes, which is way above the national average for anyone to be receiving in any AP class on a quarterly basis. Of course, this is weighted with Shoreham's 1.15 weight on AP classes, but still, it's very impressive. And another thing I was able to create was this chart. And I asked the students if it was proven that music students are more likely to be successful AP students, would they enroll in a music course at Shoreham-Wading High School? And 28% said maybe, 37% said yes, and only 34% said no. So I found this to prove my research to be really successful, because even if students weren't planning on being music students in the first place, the fact that they see that their peers are succeeding being music students, that they would choose to join, and that would raise the amount of students who are music students here at Shoreham-Wading High School, which is diminishing every year. So in conclusion, my goal was to build upon the discussion of utilizing music training as a form of educational benefit for students. It proved to enhance school performance, a positive direct relationship between AP and music students, and it shed light upon the problem of decreasing music students in schools in America, and one that I see myself in Shoreham-Wading High School. This may lead, and what I hope to, will lead to a new influx of music students here at Shoreham. And these are my references. Thank you.
Kaylee and Larissa represented well over 100 students between AP Capstone Seminar and Capstone Research this year, and each student produced a project similar in nature, and these were just 2 examples. So congratulations not only to Kaylee and to Larissa and to Mr. Kasky and Mrs. Tren for all the exceptional work that their students produced this year. Thank you.
Thank you. I thought both topics were really great to hear, and the research was fabulous, so thank you. Okay, next up, high school science research and FFA presentation. Mr. Poole.
Come on up, Mr. Poole.
Sure. Thank you again. I would now like to bring up Mrs. Dana Schaefer, who is our teacher of our science research program and one of our advisors of our Future Farmers of America Club, and she will present briefly on what their students are working on right now, and then call up some students to present as well. Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for having us tonight. Like Mr. Pugliese said, I'm Dana Schaefer. I've been teaching science research here at Shoreham-Wading High School for 4 years now. And the 7 students that I have with me are all members of our science research program. 4 of them have been with me since it started 4 years ago. And so we figured that at this point, as they're graduating, it would be a really nice time for them to be able to share with you all some of the achievements that they have accomplished over the past several years, and how their accomplishments in the science research program, as well as our new chapter of the FFA organization, which is a nationally recognized, prestigious organization involved in agricultural science, as well as leadership, how these 4 behind me in the lovely blue jackets have helped to create our new chapter, and they wanted to share with you what those accomplishments have meant for their future careers. So I have Blythe Wing, Claire Wing, Tori Parinello, and Taylor Paperno representing the FFA this evening. And I have Jalel Sawas and Brianna Donnelly representing the science research program. And then we have Matt Ternelia, who's representing both as the future of the program as it continues.
Are the Shoreham-Wading FFA, and we've been established since 2019, and we've been growing every year since then. And And on the next slide, you're going to see our motto for the FFA. And this is the national FFA motto. And the FFA was established all over the country to teach leadership and career development skills through agriculture learning. And it is also just teaching more about agriculture because it's not normally taught in schools.
So since the founding of our FFA in 2019, we have accomplished a variety of different things, and some of those things involve virtual and live cooking demonstrations, depending on whether COVID was present or not. This year we did a virtual cooking demonstration on how to make pesto. That was super fun and interesting. We've been doing track and animal identification. We've also been looking at local farms and how they've been engaging in different agricultural pursuits. And some students have been preparing for a livestock CDE, which is a career development event. Another student will talk more about that later. So in the 2019 New York State Convention, we learned about career development events and leadership development events. We also learned about the components of floriculture and animal sciences, which are two leadership development events that you can partake in the FFA. And we learned about the different components of agriculture. So agriculture isn't just about growing plants or raising animals. There's also an entire engineering component to agriculture. So the engineering of tractors to make them more efficient when they're collecting crops, or drones when they're flying over a field can measure whether or not the plants in that field are dying and what parts of the plant are dying, so the farmer can better water or create nutrients on that field to grow the plants. For the 2020 and 2021 conventions, we've attended multiple virtual workshops. Some of those workshops include a tour of a horse farm, a tour of a beef farm, and a couple of talks about using social media to shed a positive light on agriculture and how to respond to hateful comments on social media and what hateful comments should just be left alone, which is an important skill on any part of social media. In 2021 and 2020, we had a herb sale, which we sold some herbs such as basil and thyme. Currently, we're doing a composting project at our school, so that's super fun. We placed composting bins in every single home-based classrooms. On the top of the bin, there is a label of what you can and can't put in there. On the side of the bin, there's a nice educational blurb about the importance of composting for the environment. Today, we actually collected some of those bins. We've been collecting them regularly, and we've been cleaning them out and making sure that there's no compost in them, and quite a few home bases have been partaking in this event, which is super cool. And for our day of service, we planted plants around the SWR campus. When you walk in, you can see that there are flowers and vegetables in two of the raised gardens outside our campus, which helps to make our campus look even nicer than it already does.
So a major part of participating in the FFA is LDEs and CDEs, which are leadership development events. Part of the benefit of partaking in these events is being able to develop like speaking skills and public speaking skills and being able to speak on demand. One of the LDEs that I participated in was extemporaneous speaking, in which I was given a topic and I had to research the topic for 30 minutes and then give a presentation about what I learned about that topic in the 30 minutes that I was researching it. And it's a good way to build confidence and just be sure in your public speaking and just develop skills that you're going to need for the rest of your life. And yeah.
From being a new chapter, we had a couple of us participate in these leadership events this year. I thought this was a very positive experience, as we were able to see, So for mine, I focused for my leadership event, I focused on veterinary science, and this prepared me in my future career and gave me more confidence in myself. So like I want to be a veterinarian when I'm older, so I was able to learn important information for this career.
By district level first, if you're successful in the district level, you move on to the sub-state level. If you're successful in the sub-state level, you move on to the state level, and then eventually the national level. So for a fledgling FFA chapter, all 4 of our contestants placed in the first in their district, first or second in the district level, and then moved on to the sub-state level, and Corey actually placed third in the sub-state for 2. Pretty good turnout for our first.
Fix this a little bit. For the future of FFA and due to the opening of different activities, due to the decrease of COVID-19 cases, next year we would like to put together 4-person teams to participate in career development events, such as the ones listed above: aquaculture, floriculture, veterinary science, and environmental and natural resources. These events allow students to take part in hands-on activities in their respective fields, such as for aquaculture, water testing, making sure a fish is healthy and how to assess the fish that are being farmed, and making sure the equipment is all set and ready as to not harm any fish, and to make sure the fish that will now be edible, will be edible and approved. We would like to also continue on bettering our campus and our agriculture program as a whole, as working on the compost bins as previously mentioned, as well as the gardens, the raised beds in the front, and the beds out back. We'd like to also expand our animal science program with our newfound knowledge in taking part in these CDEs and LDEs, and the students who have participated in these and learn more about them and how to properly take care of certain animals. There are other local FFA chapters in the schools near us, which we are hoping to collaborate with and discuss different topics with in the future, COVID permitting, as well as the New York State FFA convention, which is held every year virtually this year, and we will hope it will be in person in the future and we can attend to expand our knowledge in agriculture and sciences.
Can just switch over to the slides quickly. So Jalel received an award a little while ago from Sarah Anker for his work over at BNL. The program that he's been taking part in for the past 4 years is called the SPARK program. It is an amazing research program that's a collaboration between scientists at a facility at BNL known as the National Synchrotron Light Source 2. So without going into all the complicated chemistry and physics behind all of that, he has been participating in real science research that's going to be published in the manuscript that he's working on. So Brianna is going to introduce our program a little bit, and then Jalel will tell you a little bit about the research that he did over at BNL.
Hi. So I'm Brianna. Like Ms. Schaefer mentioned earlier, I have been a part of the program all 4 years. It is by far one of my favorite classes. I've been able to participate in many different programs that an average high schooler does not get to participate in. I was able to go to a day in the life at the Peconic Estuary twice. I did Barco Long Island both my freshman and sophomore year, where I, using DNA barcoding, I found the diversity of macroinvertebrates and the moss life on our campus. And then my freshman year, and I was supposed to last year, because of COVID I didn't, I presented at LISEF, which is the Long Island Science and Engineering Fair. I'm majoring in forensics, and last year I was supposed to present along with Tori different methods of cleaning up crime scenes for blood and other bodily fluids using different chemical and organic or natural cleaners. Some of my other classmates went to Long Island Science Congress, which is part of Barcode Long Island. I never went, but a few of my classmates did go. And then year 3 and 4 has been independent research. This year I worked with yeast cells and seeing which type of essential oils are safe for the human skin. So yeast is a very similar growing method that your skin cells do. So I used wintergreen, eucalyptus, tea tree oils, and I placed them on already fully matured yeast cells, and I compared them to a control sample. After I fully developed the samples, I put them under microscopes and was able to see different structures in the experimental samples and the control samples. They were a little different shaped, and their cells looked different. Well performed research last year. I'll have him tell you because I don't really know. But he's also part of the SPARK program, and he'll talk about that now.
So the pictures above are just a project that I did last year that I was supposed to bring to Plum Island for a poster session, but unfortunately, due to COVID, that kind of fell out. But it's pretty much just on if aspirin can be used as a primary prevention method for cardiovascular disease. And I used a model organism, as you can see in the bottom right picture. It's a C. elegans. It's pretty much just like a small a worm, and it's used as a model organism because its heartbeats are very similar to those of a human heart. Technically, it's not a heartbeat with the worm, but I don't need to get into the specifics of that. But yeah, so I ended up doing that project. So that's what Brianna was referencing earlier. But I really geared my focus towards the SPARK program for a lot of the ending part of last year and this year. So what the SPARK program really is an opportunity for students on Long Island to utilize Brookhaven National Laboratory's research facilities, specifically their NSLS2, their light source, which is a collection of different beamlines. The beamlines that I focused on was SRX, which, can we change? Yeah. So SRX was the beamline that I focused on, and it determines elements between KeV levels of around 3 to about 12, but I also worked with the XPD beamline and the TESS beamline. But for the sake of what I'm speaking about later in this presentation, I'm just going to focus on the SRX beamline. So what exactly it is just how I explained before. Essentially, in this case, it'd be pond sediment, but as I'll mention later, I also use seaweed and kelp. You put it in the beamline, and depending on how the light source, or depending on how the light refracts onto the sample, you can determine what element is actually present into the sample. And it can be utilized because these elements have different effects on the environment surrounding it. For example, with pond sediment, it has an effect on the biodiversity of macroinvertebrates. So it really gives me an opportunity to do good bench work before I go into, at least for what I want to do, I want to go into the medical field. So it gives me really good bench work and experience for further research that I'm going to be doing as I continue on my educational path. So Shoreham-Wading River students utilize the SPARK program, as I stated before, with pond sediment and kelp and seaweed. With both pond sediment and kelp and seaweed, I was granted the opportunity to write manuscripts on both of them. The kelp and seaweed manuscript, unfortunately, I did not submit to any journals just because it was kind of like a side project over the summer at one of Brookhaven National Laboratory summer programs. But my pond sediment paper, I've finished my manuscript and I'm in the editorial process. I'm just about to submit it to 3 different journals, so that's really exciting for me. I'm hoping to get that published before the end of the school year wraps up. But I was also given the opportunity to work with some dinosaur teeth as well. And once again, that just gave me additional bench work experience using the SRX beamline. So as you can see from the pictures, the one on the left, that's me actually putting the slide of the sediment sample onto the beamline. You pretty much just lock it in, and then you're able to close the door and actually run the whole experiment. So I'm not really getting like babied by anyone. I'm like actually doing the work myself, which I think is pretty cool. And then the next two pictures with myself and my buddy Kieran at the computer, as well as Tori, Mrs. Schaefer, all at the computer on the right. We're working with the PyXRF program. So essentially how it works is after you put your sample into the beamline, the actual elemental results get put into this PyXRF program onto the Brookhaven National Laboratory computer. I don't know if you can see it too well, but on that picture you see like a bunch of lines in that graph. But as you continue on, you can end up getting into a publishable image like this. You just put the programming from PyXRF into Excel. So what I show up there is the pond sediment collected from the southern zone of the pond. I'm not going to go into the specifics because I know that can kind of be boring at times, but essentially I just find it really cool how I can work with one coding program and put it into an image that is pretty neat and easy to read like that. So that really helped me gain more confidence, not only working with coding and programming at a national laboratory, but also working with images and knowing what kind of images I need to put into papers that are able to be published. Because an image like this was required to be put into my manuscript as well as my poster that I shared with other scientists in order for it to be accepted. Because just taking an image from PyXRF, which is the programming that you saw on the other slide, would not be adequate enough. Additionally, this is an RGB diagram. Essentially, RGB just stands for red, green, blue. So those are three different elements, one being copper, cobalt, and iron mixed together, and you can see the colocalization between the three elements. Once again, this is another image that I worked with in order to put into my manuscript for it to be published. And lastly, you can also create elemental maps with this program. Elemental maps are essentially just showing the distribution of the element in the actual sample, and you can determine hotspots of where the element is most present. But overall, through this program, not only was I given the access to write a manuscript and hopefully get it published, but also the importance of bench work and gaining more experience in a laboratory setting is really important for someone like me and my peers who want to go into the STEM field, and not only the medical field, but also engineering or just research in general, because gaining this experience as someone like a high schooler will put me over the edge of someone who was not able to have an experience in the Shoreham-Wading River Science Research Club like I was as well. So overall, the club, as you could see from everyone who presented, you can really diversify yourself if you feel, or you can just focus on one specific thing. For me, myself, I really put my focus onto Spark and actual bench work, but that isn't frowning upon the agricultural work that the FFA is doing at all. It's really all just personal preference, and there's so many opportunities and doors you're able to open in the science research program as long as you stick to it and really are determined to it. So, yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you all for your time. Again, these were just a few examples of the incredible work that our students were doing in the science research program. So guys, thank you again very much. Incredible presentations. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. I must say, from the kindergartners to these last few presentations, pretty amazing things happening in the district. So great to see all the kids come to the board meetings too. Okay. Next up, votes and resolutions. First up, approval of CPSE, CSE, and 504 meeting summary memo dated May 13th, 2021. Can I get a motion? Katie, second. Jim. Any discussions or questions? Okay to vote. All in favor? 6-0 approved. Approval of March 2021 Treasurers Report. Can I get a motion? Tom, second. Katie. Any discussions or questions? Okay to vote. All in favor? 6-0 approved. And next up are the policies. First reading. First one up. Revised, number 5520, extra classroom activity fund. Mr. Poole.
Yep, that policy was revised according to a review by our auditors. Really, one simple revision was to update the reference to the New York State Education Department finance pamphlet, the safeguarding, accounting, and auditing of extra classroom activity funds, which was revised in 2019. Our policy did not reflect that and now reflects the reference to that new pamphlet from NYSID and from 2019.
Okay, great. Next up, revised number 6180, Staff Student Relations, Mr. Haywood.
Yes, this policy has been revised to enhance the policy and provide more specific clarity to language used in the policy, as well as expand who would be covered by the policy.
New policy number 6181, Sexual Misconduct, Mr. Haywood.
This is a new policy that we received from the New York State School Board Association that more specifically is directed to sexual misconduct rather than just have it as part of policy 6180.
Okay. And last but not least, new policy number 6480, use of electronic communications when corresponding with students, Mr. Haywood.
This policy has been revised to limit electronic communication between students and staff to teachers, district-issued email accounts, district-approved communication applications, or district classroom software. The policy also includes that parents and guardians must have the ability to view all electronic communication sent to their children.
Okay, so this one was revised, not new?
Yes.
Okay, clarifying that. Can I get a motion to, any discussion or questions? Okay, for first reading?
Yes.
I get a motion? Tom, second Henry. All in favor? 6-0. Okay. Next up is the adoption of resolutions. We have quite a few, so bear with me if I make any mistakes. First up is the Board of Education resolution. There is one, number 2021-240. Can I get a motion? Tom, second. Megan. Any discussion or questions? Okay to vote. All in favor? 6-0 approved. Curriculum and instruction resolutions. There are 45. Okay, take them as a block.
Cool, yeah.
All right, numbers 2021-241 through 2021-285. Can I get a motion? Tom, second. Katie. Any discussion or questions? None? Okay to vote? All in favor? 6-0 approved. Human Resources resolutions, there are 5. Okay, take them as a block.
Mike, one point real quick on 284, 2021. I think it's great that we're doing the live streaming of the high school graduation. Just wanted to bring that up.
I'm sorry, I couldn't understand you. Say that again?
All right, for 2021, 284, I'm glad to see that we're doing the live streaming again this year. I think that's a great practice.
284, high school graduation live streaming, yes, okay. Good point.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Poole and the administration for providing that option again to our community and their families.
Thank you.
Okay, Human Resources resolution, there are 5. We'll take them as a block. Good. All right, numbers 2021-286 through 2021-290. Can I get a motion? Henry, second. Megan. Any discussion or questions? Okay to vote. All in favor? 6-0 approved. Business and operations resolutions, there are 49. Okay, take them as a block. Yes. Numbers 2021-291 through 2021-339. Can I get a motion? Katie, second. Tom, any discussion or questions? Okay to vote. All in favor? 6-0 approved. I'd like to thank the Wildcat Athletic Club for their donations of volleyball equipment and 2 storage sheds. Okay. Next up is personnel. Can I get a motion? Henry, second. Jim. Any discussion or questions? We are going
Lewis?
to, yes.
Are you pulling
Yep.
a section?
Yeah, we are.
K8?
So, what's that?
K8.
Okay, so we'll take K8 out separately. So can I get a motion to, for all items separate from K8? Tom, second. Katie, any discussion or questions? Okay, to vote? Favor? 6-0 approved. Can I get a motion to vote on K8? Megan, second Katie. Any discussion or questions? Okay, to vote? All in favor? 5 opposed? 1. Mr. Hayward?
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. I'm proud to announce that the board has just acted on the tenure for several teachers within our district. I would ask Mr. Poole and Mr. Lewis to come up on the stage, and they'll present you with a small token of our appreciation. And if the teachers can come up for a group photo, that would be great. We'll start with Nicholas Vertucci, technology teacher at the middle school and high school. Kimberly Avalon, mathematics teacher at the middle school. Robert Christensen, mathematics teacher at the middle school. Fred Volz, music teacher at the middle school. Chelsea Tyrone, speech at Briarcliff and Miller Avenue. Elizabeth Barlow, foreign language Spanish at the high school. Maria Lavasco, social studies at the high school. Brittany Davis, physical education at the high school. Joseph Mordarski, special education at the high school. Christina Tanner, special education at the high school. And Caitlin Bolenbach, special education, currently at middle school, but has also is currently Miller Avenue, but has also worked at the middle school. Congratulations to all the recipients.
Congratulations. 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 Congratulations.
All right, is there any further communication? No? This time, if we have any additional comments from residents?
Yes, Ms. Sarah Pierce. Hi, good evening. My name is Sarah Perez. I live at 41 St. Andrews Path in Wading River. I have 3 children in the district, 2nd, 6th, and 8th grade. I thank you for the opportunity to speak to all of you tonight. Last year, we witnessed this district move heaven and earth to get all of our kids back in the classroom full-time. Shoreham-Wading River had the wisdom to realize that school was very much essential, and bold steps were taken to make full-time in-person learning a reality. Huge efforts were made to return our kids to a sense of normalcy. I know I speak for many parents when I say I am incredibly grateful for these efforts. A year later, the picture is now clearer, and great progress has been made in the fight against COVID-19. We have record low case numbers. Teachers and staff are vaccinated. We know with certainty that outdoor transmission is infinitesimal, and we know that even students identified as close contacts did not subsequently test positive for COVID. All these points make a strong case that mask use could be safely reduced. Other districts are looking at the same picture and they are making adjustments. Rocky Point, Miller Place, Colmac, and PadMed are all easing mask use by not requiring them while seated at desks and or while outside. While I recognize that the district may be bound to the guidance, I implore you to also take any steps possible to limit mask use for our students as well. When considering the incredible progress that has been made, it is logical to ask the question, what will it take for masks to come off? I think it is a fair assumption that the powers that be would answer that question with when the kids are vaccinated. If any parent listening tonight wants to retain their choice regarding the vaccine, then the fight starts with the masks. My belief is that the longer we allow our children to be masked, the more likely it is that the vaccine will eventually be mandated, along with any booster shots that may follow. The two issues are inextricably linked. Some parents listening may be asking themselves, what's the big deal with wearing a mask, especially this late in the year, or it didn't bother my kids. I'm happy for those parents and for the kids that genuinely took this year in stride. However, it simply isn't the case for everyone. I can tell you that my husband and I have seen firsthand the negative effects that the masks have had on each of our kids. We saw these effects increase, particularly for our 6th grader, after the mask breaks were limited in December. So when I weigh the negative effects against my child's mask risk for serious illness, I feel very strongly that wearing a mask for 6 hours a day is doing more harm than good. Perhaps not every child suffered negative effects from mask wearing, but the issue of mask breaks is applicable to all students. The mask breaks, while being encouraged by administration, are arbitrary and highly teacher dependent. Even after Mr. Poole was kind enough to again reinforce mask breaks district-wide, the change seen as a result varied greatly from class to class. At the end of the day, the teachers have the CDC guidelines to stand on. They are not obligated to give breaks outside of lunch and may choose not to for various reasons. I ask that this issue be given strong consideration in the reopening committees. I want to see masks completely optional in the fall, but I will fight for any bit of progress that I can get. This is a complicated issue with many different opinions as how to proceed from here. However, I firmly believe that parents should now have a choice regarding masks and the vaccine. I encourage Shoreham-Wading River to join the other districts making changes and to be a leader in this effort. We need to strive for complete normalcy, not just a sense of normalcy. I sincerely thank you for your time and consideration tonight.
Mr. Ryan McHale.
First of all, I want to thank members of the SWR community for affording our children the opportunity to engage in in-person learning for the majority of this school year. This is a testament that we all share when it comes to the well-being of our children. Second, I appreciate the board for being receptive enough to hear the opinions from the parents of the SWR community. I feel that whenever the voices of all the stakeholders are considered, it enables us to subsequently address these issues with a better understanding of the concerned parties. The challenge that lies herein is that the largest stakeholder as it pertains to mask mandates, our children, have had no voice whatsoever over the past year. Quite the opposite, as we have intentionally strapped a piece of damp cloth over their faces as we attempt to adhere to oscillating and capricious guidelines set forth by our supposed elected leaders. At the early onset from the COVID-19 pandemic, there was little known about the virulence or infectivity of this pathogen. And as a result, people were willing to acquiesce to any suggestion for protection particularly when it came to our children. But we know more now, and here are some statistics. Of the 526,000 deaths in the United States involving COVID-19, 238 have been children 17 or younger. That equals 0.04% of all COVID-19 deaths reported in the United States. The CDC conducted a study on children under 18 for anxiety and depression since the start of the pandemic and found that 1 in 4 had seriously considered suicide over the past 30 days. Mental health emergency room visits for children aged 5 to 11 are up 24%, according to the CDC as well. The CDC further places suicide over the past year as the second leading cause of death behind car accidents, children ages 10 to 18. And according to the Parent Resource Project, each day in our nation, there are an average of over 3,700 attempted suicides for children graded 9 through 12. And if you factor in grades 7 and 8, it's even higher. We are inflicting lifelong mental damage to our children by causing undue angst every single day when they attend school, traditionally thought to be the safest place for our children to be. Developmentally, children need to see the face of their peers to learn emotion, personal space, and social norms. This crucial skill set is not being learned when my child is greeted with a "pull your mask up" before his good morning when I drop him off at Miller Ave today. So for the disease that has no impact on 99.96% of our children, we are placing physical, constant reminders on their faces that something is wrong. This pandemic is not our children's problem. We should not be sending the message to our children that if they refuse to wear a mask at school, they could kill their grandmother. We should not be forcing them to sit on the sideline at recess if they wish to take a mask break. We should not be forcing our student athletes to reduce oxygen intake during strenuous physical activity. We've been told that COVID-19 is dangerous. This course of action is dangerous. This course of action is irresponsible. It is reckless. It is wrong to subject our children to what amounts to nothing more than the capitulation to the mental neurosis and political leanings of what appears to be the minority in the school district. Do not let this political facade proliferate, utilizing the health and well-being of our children in order to engage in this political theater. Just last week, Governor Cuomo himself said that, quote, "Government can't tell you to wear a mask. I can't. I can say it, wear a mask. You say no, and then what is the government going to do?" End quote. I call on this board to do what is right and end all mask mandates immediately, lest they risk only the damage they have caused to this generation of SWR students. If COMAC can do it, if Pat Med can do it, then we can do it.
Kristen Gaudioso.
Hi, good evening. My name is Kristen Gaudioso, and I have 3 children in Shoreham-Wading River. And I did want to echo everybody's appreciation and gratitude for what has been an incredible school year, and we are truly blessed and very, very grateful for the year that we've had thus far. I came tonight to ask you for your help as well with regards to mask usage for our children. Mr. Poole, you did a great job of addressing many of my concerns at the beginning of the meeting. Thank you. I did still want to touch on a couple of things. Although we are nearly at the end of the school year, it would be very easy to let things remain as they are. However, my concerns are largely with the plan for the next year, and I would also like to address the elephant in the room, that it seems as though the only way our children will be permitted to remove their mask is in exchange for the COVID-19 vaccine once it becomes available, and ultimately will be mandated for school attendance. While this might be an option that works for some, this isn't a decision that should be made by our government or our schools. It's not the government's job to protect our health. It's their job to protect our rights. It's time for parents to be given their rights back to choose what is best for their children and their families. Mask mandates are not law. They did not pass through the legislative process. Just as the letter that you read stated from Ballone's office, the word should is much different than it being required by law. Science has progressed over the last 14 months. We know more today about this virus than we did in the beginning when these mandates were initially put in place. I believe we can put forth a plan that follows science and common sense. Show us that the benefits of masking outweigh the harm. If you are unable to do so, we must be given an option. There have been other neighboring and nearby districts that have made decisions to limit masks both inside the classroom and outdoors, such as Rocky Point, Comac, and PatMed, just to name a few. Will our district be making similar modifications? Shoreham-Wading River has always led the way and set the bar high. It's time for us to do it again. I know that we all want what's best for our children and the staff, but the time for change is now. I personally have spent months writing, calling, emailing the governor, the Department of Health, local legislators, and our school officials, all to be told that none of the above have any authority to make any changes. So who is it? Who do we need to speak to? What do we need to do to make this change? Outsourcing all decisions to the state is not fulfilling the responsibility entrusted to our amazing superintendent and our incredible Board of Education. There are many legal blockers, but we must try and fight for every angle. Our kids deserve it. Thank you very much for your time.
Jennifer Lolera.
Good evening. First off, I want to thank you for taking the time to hear my testimony. My name is Jennifer Data, and I am here to tell you how sick and tired and heartbroken I am of sending my children to school with their masks on. Sorry. I'm representing those of us who still believe in freedom of choice. When the pandemic began, the lack of knowledge about COVID-19 justified this behavior of wearing masks. The main selling point was to protect others. The catchphrase was, "We're in this together." This tactic worked because it showed which one of us cared for the well-being of others. It was and continues to be a way of shaming those of us who have researched the science and want the freedom to raise our kids as we choose. Obviously, the health of my children is number one, and I would never knowingly put others in danger. You might not know me personally, but what I've always taught my kids is respect and manners, the same way I was raised. It became clear long ago that the virus is less dangerous to children than the flu, and that keeping schools open poses minimal risk of spreading infections. This information is blocked on mainstream media and social platforms. Vaccines are readily available for those who choose them. Teachers and staff have been vaccinated, yet we choose to ignore the evidence. The whole school year goes by with our kids forced to wear masks when studies suggest that children do not contribute much to the spread of coronavirus, as per Harvard Health Publishing. But yet it seems to me that the science is being ignored and we are blindly following the CDC, SCDOH recommendations. We do not know the long-term psychological damage masks might have on our children's development, but we do know what is backed by real science and researchers is that joy, anger, fear, surprise, sadness, contempt, disgust are all basic building blocks of emotional experience and are written all over our faces. We depend on facial expression to know and understand each other. With our faces covered, we lose key nonverbal information. The development of facial recognition is very weak in young children, per Dr. Kang Lee from Toronto. It is not until kids are about 14 years old that children reach adult skill levels in recognizing faces. What about the suicide rate? Does this not matter? Why isn't this in the mainstream media headlines daily being shoved down our throats? My 3 children are sent to school with 2 to 3 masks daily so they may change them as the day goes on. Every day, my 12-year-old and 5-year-old's masks come home sopping wet with brown stains on them. Is this mold? They unknowingly chew and suck on it at times. They forget to change them. My 5-year-old sneezed into his mask yesterday, and he told me he went to the bathroom to wash it off so he didn't have to breathe in his disgusting boogies. Those were his words. My 8-year-old daughter complains of her face and nose being sore and irritated. Children are constantly touching their faces now in order to readjust their masks. Now you're spreading germs all over the face. How is this sanitary or helping my child? What about their gums, teeth, and oral health? What happens when temperatures reach 80 degrees and they're out running around? Will something change when we see our children passing out from heat exhaustion or dehydration? Does our district have no liability? I cry quite often about this since I'm a single mom who has a full-time job and cannot afford to stay home and homeschool my kids or send them to private school. I feel helpless. I have a close friend in Quorum whose children must wear masks in school also, yet their son, who is on the wrestling team, does not need to wear one. They're face-to-face with body parts on top of each other. How does this make any sense at all? Sounds like control to me. I was told Shoreham-Wading River is following SCDOH regulations. What about COMAC? Beginning tomorrow, 5:26, while at desk, recess or PE, 6 feet apart, face masks will be voluntary for all students and staff. From the beginning, I have instructed my children that masks are ridiculous and that instead we should be re-educating our kids, mostly adults, about basic hygiene, such as covering your mouth and your elbow when you cough and sneeze, washing your hands, staying at home when you're sick, basically common sense. I'm lucky because my children listen and trust me. They are not scared of this virus. They completely understand that they have to wear it only because our governor mandates it. If anything, they have learned about the government and how our freedoms are easily taken away by supposed leaders. I always taught them to listen to our elders and follow the rules. Now it's a catch-22, as I have now tweaked this and encouraged them to question authority and stand up for what they believe in. I am responsible for the health of my own child and well-being. We need to fight for our children and not just sit back and let others dictate how we raise them. They are the innocent bystanders, suffering for adults' inability to ignore the evidence and being a victim to a selfish need to hold on to fear. I beg of you to stop punishing our children now. We all have the fundamental right to breathe clean air, and yet we are preventing that same right from them, instead to breathe in their own exhaled breath all day long. We can all go to restaurants with friends, sit, eat, and drink without masks on, sitting closely together, but yet our kids have to be masked while sitting at their desks 6 feet apart or doing sports outdoors. Shame on us. I've had enough of this abuse. I want to have the freedom of choice. Isn't that what the USA is all about? If you choose to wear a mask, by all means do so. My children and myself should also have that same right, and it should be respected as well. I thank you for the time, and I hope that our amazing community can be a leader in changing these restrictions and thinking about the health of our young, impressionable children. Thank you.
Pat Borkowski.
Hello, I just want to first state that I am so grateful to all of you for making and allowing our children to go to school in person this year. You have truly been amazing. I can't thank you enough, Mr. Poole. I can't thank you enough, board, teachers. You have no idea how much our community truly appreciates all you've done. I'm not going to be as well prepared as everybody else because I just decided to do this at the last minute. Let me first start off by telling you, I'm the parent of an 8th grade student, and I'm also the parent of a student that graduated last year in 2020, who is doing amazing. Thanks to Shoreham-Wading River. My 8th grader has severe asthma. As a matter of fact, his uncle passed away from a severe asthma attack. So the masks do not help him. As a matter of fact, they hurt him quite a bit because it makes it very difficult for him to breathe, especially when he needs a good air. With the way things are right now with allergies, you can't imagine how difficult it is. He has been told to put his mask on when he's about to sneeze. What I say to that is, do you wear your pants when you go into the bathroom? No. He's walked outside and walked away from others during recess and has been told to get the mask back on. He said there have been little to no mask breaks, which for my son, this is really important. I'm asking that the board consider allowing children to take masks off when they're seated, or to ensure at the bare minimum that they are given more mask breaks. Our children need to see expressions. It's part of communicating, and this is what they're lacking. They're lacking that in school. How do they know what the teachers are saying and looking and thinking about them when they're talking? It just doesn't make sense to me. Do you know what the #1 thing is to do to prevent the spread of disease? It's good hand washing. That's what we should be teaching, good hand washing. It's not wearing masks. I want to thank you very much for your time and for listening to me.
Andrea Sadler.
Good evening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Andrea Stadler, and I'm a parent of 3 children in the district, 2 in the middle school, 1 in 6th and 1 in 8th, and a first grader at Miller Avenue. I want to thank the district for reopening schools for 5 days a week this year. The district faced an enormous challenge and was able to safely keep our kids in school while following guidelines from the CDC and the Department of Health. Thank you for keeping with these guidelines and updating the community as these guidelines changed. Your efforts and leadership have helped keep all of our families safe. Now, I had the rest of a statement prepared to discuss my life as a professor at St. Joseph's College. We were one of the few Long Island colleges to have in-person classes. I was one of the professors that taught in-person classes. We had barriers up, we wore masks, and I understand that this population is very different than the population we are discussing. But I had colleagues and students come in as COVID positive, and this mask protected me from contracting the disease. So what I would like to say is, because a couple of people have brought up other school districts, and Mr. Poole, thank you for your eloquent words that you are bound by state requirements. But several people have brought up Patchogue Medford School District and their lack of or their change in their mask mandates. And this is exactly what you have asked the state for. What they have sent to parents says all students involved in outdoor activities, which include but are not limited to recess, physical education, and outdoor learning, can do so without masks. We will use the outdoor activities as an opportunity for students to take mask breaks. All teachers will be mindful of the need to provide students the opportunity for more frequent mask breaks during the day at their discretion. The shields on student desks will begin to be removed by the end of June and into the summer months. So they are not removing masks in schools. Rocky Point, this one's a little blurry. Okay, that one's a little blurry, all right. Miller Place, okay. Students are all required to wear masks in all public settings, and when the 3-foot social distance variable cannot be achieved, such as on buses, in hallways, while on the playground, and in small groups for instructional purposes, i.e. reading and math support services, OT and PT, etc. However, students will no longer be required to wear face coverings while the child is sitting in their desk during the instructional day when their desks remain 6 feet apart. So here, yes, there is a change, okay? Staff and faculty will be required to wear masks at all times per New York State guidelines, as they are normally within the 3 to 6 foot boundary. So yes, there might be room for change, but clearly these districts are still trying to operate within the within the mandates set forth by the state. Thank you for everything that you have done to keep our children safe.
That was it.
Yeah, I want to thank everyone for coming tonight and speaking. I don't disagree with a lot of things that were said. As Mr. Poole mentioned, we're trying to find, or we're following guidelines. We're hopeful that our elected officials can, you guys made some great points. I mean, obviously it's science, it's the low percentages that our children are affected, and a lot of things don't make sense right now. And someone mentioned wrestling. They can wrestle without a mask, and these kids are sitting 6 feet apart wearing masks, so it doesn't make sense. Okay, thank you. Still doesn't make sense to me, but. So, I mean, like Mr. Poole also mentioned, we have a reopening committee meeting tomorrow, in which we will discuss multiple things, including masks as well, and we will provide an update to everyone as soon as things change.
I just want to add that I don't know if the parent is still here, but there is an exception in the law for masks, that if a student has a medical condition and a medical note, that note from the physician's office can be brought to school, and the student will not be required to wear a mask, and that is part of the regulations. And just again, I certainly appreciate and respect the passion that people came today to speak about it, but mask protocols, mask mandates are in fact a New York State law for school districts for remaining open for in-person instruction. So the decision-making rests in Albany with Governor Cuomo and Department of Health, and a loosening and a lifting of the mask mandate, especially for outside, for recess and PE, is only going to come with that relief from Albany, which I hope does come.
Okay. We don't have any further comments from residents. Can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting? Jim, second Tom, all in favor? 6-0. Thank you everyone for coming. Have a great night.
Thank you.